Well, as Jane mentioned, we are friends in real life, and we've known each other for quite a while.
Yeah.
We met at an author dinner. I don't even remember what city it was. Long time ago, we
Yeah,
met at an
I don't
author
remember
dinner,
either.
and the publisher that was hosting the dinner said, "Oh, you two should meet. You both live in Austin," and so instant friendship. And
I mean, like 20 years
yeah,
ago or
it's been a
something
long
like that. It's been
time.
a long time.
But anyway, we love to get together and have coffee and pancakes, and we always talk about books. And we talk about our own books, and we talk about all the trials and tribulations of trying to meet deadlines. And then we talk about other people's books too.
Yes.
And so we love just kind of the behind the scenes, talking about how, how does the cover get chosen, or what's going on with that editor, or, you know, how did how did she land that book deal?
Yeah. Talk about that a
Anyway,
lot.
so but we thought, after we were doing this over pancakes one day, and we thought, wouldn't it be fun if we just kind of shared that book club with other people? Because we just, I love to get recommendations of books from friends and other authors, and so we thought we'd try and share it with others. So
Yeah, and
that
the
was
other
the
thing
idea.
we talk a lot about how authors structure and craft their books, and like some of the choices they made, and how that was a great choice to make. And we've got a couple that we want to talk about in Emily Henry's book. So, um, has everybody read Happy Place? Or oh no, okay, well, because I mean, there might be some
Yeah,
spoilers, right?
there might be.
Yeah. Okay, don't worry
Spoilers,
about it.
okay.
Okay, all right. But just a little personal tale about Emily Henry. Her first book was Book Lovers, I believe. And you may remember that when it was about a woman who was writing a romance novel, and she was at a lake, and there was a guy next to her writing serious fiction. And it was all about that. And I read that book when it first came out, thought it was really good.
When did that one come out? I read it recently, so I
It
don't know.
came out right at the start of the pandemic.
Oh, okay.
So it was
Yeah.
like one of the
Everyone's
first.
on a reading binge. Yeah.
Everybody was on a reading binge. And I didn't think anything about it, but I thought it was, this is really good. And Emily Henry, I think one of her gifts is banter, the dialogue. And I was telling Laura that if you watch Love Island, they're always talking about, I watch trash TV, but they're always talking about, they want somebody who's fit and has good teeth and gives good banter. And that's what I think Emily Henry does. Well, not too long after that, I get this card in the mail from Emily Henry that I'm going to read you. And because I was so shocked. And she said, Julia, I can't express how much your kindness about Beach Read meant to me. I'm always so touched when established authors take the time to lift up us newbies. I hope you enjoy the new book just as much, and that we cross paths soon. XO Emily. And it was so sweet. And I was like, how does she even know I read the book? Well, I found out I had posted about it on Instagram, which I had forgotten about, but I posted about how good it was. And I guess her publicist was looking out for that. And so she sent me a note. So I would like to say that she was very appreciative of me back in the day before she hit it huge.
Well, and when you're first starting out, when a well-established author reads your book, it just means the world to you. And especially if it's someone that you've read so many of their books and you've kind of idolized for years, and then they pick up your book and read it, and it's just I mean, it's kind of terrifying if your editor tells you ahead of time that they have your book. Oh, we sent her an ARC of the book,
it is.
which is an advanced reader copy, and then you're just like, oh my gosh, Karen Robards is reading my book, or Linda Howard is reading. You just kind of freak out about it. But
I never thought I was one of those authors, but apparently Emily did at one time. So, but now she's huge, and her publicist sent us this Book Lovers cup.
That's so cute.
Isn't that so cute? Plus a signed book plate, and we're going to give it away at random to one of you guys at the end. But I just think that's adorable, and it's got the two.
Yeah.
And then some books you don't read so much as live, and that's from Book Lovers by Emily Henry. So don't let us forget to auction that off, or do some contest.
So most of you have read the book so far. Do you want to start? Like, what did you think?
Well, yeah, what did I think? I thought it was really cute. I really liked it a lot. Sped right through it. It was really good. I loved it. What did you think of the cover?
I love the cover. It's part of a trend that we've talked about with covers. Your books have been in part of the same trend.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have noticed when you go into a bookstore, or even if you're just standing in the airport bookstore. I mean, it's like cartoon covers have been a thing. It's been several years now
Yeah.
that it's been a trend. But this one I love especially because it's bright and I love the the friends all jumping in the lake and um,
It's definitely on trend. Barbie
yeah,
Pink,
yeah.
right?
And then Barbie
Yeah.
Pink is so big this summer.
Yeah.
So, and I'm gonna go see the movie.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to see it. Yeah.
I'm going with as soon as I saw the preview, I called my sister. I was like, "We're going!" Because we played Barbies when we were little, and anyway, so we're definitely going. But yeah, I love the
I do
cover.
too. I was telling Laura that I don't know if y'all remember when Jasmine Gilroy's book, the first one came out and it had the silhouettes on there.
Hmm.
Well, I was like 2/3 into the book or third into the book before I realized that it was a mixed race couple. And then I realized looking at the cover that it was there all along. So I had to look at this one to get the characters.
Yeah.
But that's all the
Yeah.
characters in the book, and you know who Harriet and Wynn are.
Mhm.
But I really love the bright, bright pink. I think it's just perfect for this summer.
Mhm.
Liked it so much we wore it tonight.
Yes. And one thing that people ask all the time when I'm at a book signing, or I'm sure you get this question too, do you design your covers, or how did the cover idea come about? And I'm always telling them, we don't really have anything to do with it. I mean,
Yeah.
at least I don't. Usually, sometimes they'll ask me for a physical description of the characters, like, is she long brown hair or, whatever. But it's very rare that we have any input. I mean, it's usually it's kind of a moment of just a reveal, and then you hope you're going to like it.
I hope you're going to like it.
Because if you don't, it's kind of awkward.
I have had editors ask me, do I have an idea for what
Mhm.
would be on the cover? And I will give them an idea, and then what they come up with is so completely different. So they're just
before too, but
they're just
none of
like
my ideas have ever ended up on a cover.
Really good. That's good. That's good. But we're going to go in this direction.
The art side of the book.
But that's part of the marketing of the book, and that's like I would say 9/10 of the battle is to get the right cover, to entice people to pick it up. And so I think it's a good thing that they're not asking us for cover ideas.
That's not my area of expertise, but and sometimes you get a surprising cover that you don't think is going to work, but then it does work. I mean, I guess they know I guess it's a marketing decision. So,
or sometimes you get a cover that you think is like going to be laughed at. I had one. It was one of the Highlander books I did, and of course they're all bare chested.
Yeah.
But this guy was standing out there in his kilt in the middle of a snowstorm with no shirt on, and I thought, people are gonna
and stupid.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought they were going to say. And then there's the Christina Dodge. She writes suspense now, but she used to write historical romance.
Yeah.
And there's the famous cover of like a heroine and a hero in a clinch, and there's 3 arms.
A little editing over.
Yeah, if you ever go to her website, she's got it up there, but it's hilarious.
But this cover is definitely part of a trend that's been. Do you guys like this trend? Do you like do they catch your eye? I mean, I think the color totally catches your eye, but
I do too.
The kind of the theme with the cartoons has been around for about a year.
And what's really funny is that it was a trend. Remember when Sophie Kinsella, a long time ago, when she first hit?
Yes, Shopaholic.
Yeah, and Emily Giffen, when they first started, there were those cartoon covers, and then it became Chick Lit, and then Chick Lit died.
Right.
Remember?
Yeah, then they branded it Chick Lit.
Yeah, and then nobody did illustrated covers anymore, and went back to
it's back.
It's back. It's strong.
The trends come and go.
Yeah, they definitely come and go.
There was a trend one summer where all the books, it was like someone's feet. That was like their feet on the beach, their feet on the beach towel, their feet on the dock.
Yeah,
I mean, it was all feet.
And they're like a lot of the suspense books are a woman in a red cloak running from towards a cliff, away from a cliff. But they work apparently.
Yeah. But I have been seeing this book everywhere, and I don't think it's just because we're reviewing it that I've noticed it, because it really is everywhere.
Oh yeah, no, I think it's definitely everywhere, and it stands out. It really stands out.
But one of the things I loved about the content of the book, now we're done talking about the cover, I think she does really well big emotions.
Yeah.
And I think that is one reason why a lot of people that I've talked to like to read romance and like to read fiction in general, but particularly romance, is just to feel like just these visceral emotions. And I think she does them so well. And I mean, you kind of feel the ache of her breakup with her fiance, and you kind of feel like the sexual tension between them, but you also feel the joy, and that comes through a lot when she's talking about the vacation spot, which is her happy place, and when
Hmm.
she talks about her happy place, and she has so many great, very specific, nostalgic details, and
She
it
does.
really, I think it kind of brings up a lot of emotion, and
Yeah.
so
That whole theme of nostalgia all the way through for all the
yeah,
characters.
yeah,
And, especially like with Sabrina,
yes.
she's like so into what this place has meant for her. I have to say, I've been concerned about this cabin for a time because her father had such an expensive wine collection and I'm like, and then they just go off and leave it for months on end. And so I've been really worried about that wine collection. But Sabrina has, it's like all the happiness she ever knew as a kid was there.
Yes.
So, I mean, that whole theme of
Yeah.
nostalgia is with all the
Yeah.
characters, which I thought she
And
did
I
really
also
well.
thought there was sort of a theme, and it overlapped with the main character, with Harriet, was the family. Her family was so unstable. Like her father had all these wives. Sabrina's father had all these different wives, so she never had that sense of family security. So her
Right.
security was all wrapped up in her summer home, her happy place. And I
Yeah.
think the same was true for Harriet. She had just, it felt like her parents were kind of cold, and she didn't have a warm relationship with her sister, and so the friends were kind of like her substitute family.
Yeah.
And I think this place was kind of her happy place, and it was her sense of family security.
Right.
So I thought that was kind of something that was applied to all the characters. And then, and then some of the characters were kind of misfits, and didn't have like a, more of a stable, background, that they kind of found each other and became each other's family.
Right, right. And then
So
Wynn's, his happy place was with his family because they were so
yeah,
close knit.
yeah,
And so when the father died,
yeah,
that was just sent him into a
the gut
turmoil because
wrenching.
that
Yeah,
was, they were
yeah,
so centered on each other. So I
yeah,
thought that was a good juxtaposition
yeah,
of the two of them.
yeah. Um, I so I normally write suspense. I write romantic suspense and straight suspense. But one of the things that intrigued me about Emily Henry's technique was how, romance always has a happily ever after. So
Yeah.
your reader goes into it knowing that there's going to be a happily ever after, and that at the end of the book they're going to end up together. So it's always a challenge. How do you
Hmm.
make it suspenseful? If you know how it's going to end, you know, how do you make it suspenseful? And I really like the way she used the dual timeline, where you open, and I forget whether the first one is real life or happy place. I think it's happy place.
Yeah, I don't
Yes,
remember
happy
either. Yeah.
place is the very first scene in the book, and she's talking about her happy place.
Hmm.
And then it cuts over one or two chapters, and it cuts over to real life. And I thought that was, um, she did a good hook. In suspense, I always try to end every chapter on a hook.
Yeah.
And her first hook that she did was, you get the sense that there's something off, and her friends are gonna give her this surprise. She arrives at this happy place at this summer vacation, and her friends are gonna give her this surprise. And as a reader of romance, you probably know what the surprise is gonna be. You can kind of figure out that the boyfriend, and she's made kind of references to something amiss with her relationship. And then the last line of the chapter is something like, um, the one person I didn't want to see, Will, my fiance. And so that's her hook. And it's like, oh, her fiance, and she doesn't want to see him. So then of course we have to turn the page to know
Yeah.
what happened.
Yeah.
But I thought it was a clever use, going back and forth between the miserable real life scenes where she's like really talking about the problem of reality in the present tense, and then the happy place scenes where she's kind of reminiscing, and telling us all how it all started.
Right, right.
So you want to see how it started, but you
Yeah.
also want to understand how they get at the end of the book to their happy ever after.
Yeah. And the other thing about that dual timeline, that's not only did Emily have to do the backstory of the main couple, but the backstory of the group. And I thought it was really a great way that she sort of threaded in. And
Yeah.
backstory, every character has a backstory, and it's always a
It's
decision.
so hard to find where to.
Yeah, like how do you
it.
do? I mean, she could have said in a chapter, "This is what happened," and been done with
Yeah.
it and gone. So it's always really difficult to figure out how to put that backstory in and how much
Yeah.
to put in.
Well, and editors frown upon it. If you put too much backstory, it's called a backstory dump. If you put too much of it in all at once, and it feels just kind of like a lead weight just dragging down your scene, your editor will, of course,
Yeah.
flag it, and you'll have to find a way to break it down and weave it in bit by bit. And so you're trying to, as a writer, trying to find a place to put it in there because it's relevant, but you don't want to drag down the pace of your story. So I thought she did a really good job by having that back and forth timeline. You really got that.
And she had to dovetail those two. They were basically two stories.
Yes.
But she had to dovetail to like kind of climax at the same time, which she did. You find out what happened with her and when about the time that they all had the big
catches
fight.
Up to itself.
Yeah. So, I mean, I thought she did it really well. And I think that would be, from a writing standpoint, very hard to do.
Yeah. Because, and you're toggling between timelines. So it's like, what have I already revealed? You have to constantly keep in mind what you already revealed about the characters and their relationships.
Yeah.
As you go back to the present and write a scene, and then you go back to the past and write a scene.
And you got to plan those arcs where they fit. So
one thing I thought that was a choice that I liked was she started with her story. They were in college, and that's such a time in your life. They were 20 or something, but you're kind of in a vulnerable time in your life. You're away from home for the first time. And so there was this kind of a poignant feel to the story of this. It almost felt like a coming of age type of poignancy to the story, because it's this vulnerable time in their lives, and that's when they form their friendships. And so there was something kind of achingly sweet about it, I thought, that she was able to kind of show us with all the nostalgia scenes that she weaves in when she's talking about her happy place.
Yeah.
But I just thought that when you're writing about characters that are older, it's a little harder to get that vulnerable backstory across, because unless you have the childhood flashback, we've all seen that.
Yeah.
But I thought it really worked, and it made her characters, I thought, feel more relatable, that you could see when they were younger and more vulnerable, than they are in the present day, which is, I guess it's a 10-year time frame that she has.
Yeah, it's about 10 years. But one of the things I thought kind of stood out to me was, because they are older, some of her internal conflict, Harriet's internal conflict, had to do with, here's when they still have feelings for each other, obviously. And she kept saying in her head, after they would like be kind of romantic with each other, that we can't be friends. We can't be friends. And I thought, well, can't they? Because they're kind of being friends.
Yes.
And, you don't have to like get married after this, but you could, you're obviously getting along. But I also realized that she needed that internal conflict for Harriet to make the story work. And, that's another thing that's really hard about these books, is that you have to have a believable external conflict, which in this case was Dad selling the cabin with that wine collection, which I'm still worried about. I know. They're like very worried. Sit them down. Just don't get a very expensive bottle. And then, the internal conflict, what are the obstacles before them? And that was when I thought, well, she could have, I thought, I mean, maybe because where I'm at in life, who cares? Just be friends,
Well, where I am in life, I was kind of like, have a conversation, for God's sake. I mean, at least,
that was the other one.
There was all the flirting and all and I guess part of the plot device was, well, they can't let the friends know that they're broken.
Yes, that's true.
So
that's true.
That it made it a little bit more believable. But seriously, there was a point where I was just like, please just sit down and talk to this man. I mean, clearly you've been in love, so
and you're and you had good banter.
Yeah,
they did. They finally did. And the tropes, I thought, were really the way she did it. It's a big thing in women's fiction and romance now to mix up a lot of tropes in one book. And Laura and I were counting them. We came up
there were a lot.
Yeah, there were a lot. Forced proximity, second chance romance, fake dating. I mean,
fake dating. Yeah.
Does anybody else think of one? I mean, there were which one?
Yes,
just one bed. That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow, she put out, but that's kind of a thing now to get as many tropes in there as you can.
Actually, I saw an interview with Emily where she was talking about this, and she said the interviewer asked her about the enemies to lovers trope, and she said, actually, that's not a trope that I intended with this story. She said she didn't like that trope.
Yeah.
And the reason she said she didn't like that trope is because to really be enemies with someone, you don't respect them.
Yeah.
And you have like this hostility and a lack of respect. And she said, I just don't like that in a romance where they don't respect each other. So she said, it's not a trope that I like to do. So I don't think she sees this as a enemies to lovers trope, but more of the second chance romance.
I guess so. Laura and I
Yeah.
talked a lot about what is a second chance romance really, because we always thought it was like
Second
older
chance at
characters.
romance,
Yeah, I guess it's second chance at romance,
but in
not
this case with each other.
Yeah.
With the same couple.
yeah. And then the whole like friends to lover, enemies to lover, because I thought they were more friendly than they were enemies. And so we decided, well, we're not going to use that trope because we couldn't figure out which one it was. But she's
definitely
got plenty.
The forced proximity was a good one. And I'm a sucker for the only one bed trope.
Yeah, the only one bed trope. That's cool.
It's tried and true.
It is tried and true. It is.
There's a reason it sticks around.
Yeah. The second chance and the fake dating, like you're having to pretend. And so, what about I thought what was really interesting is that she sort of tackles how the characters are moving on with life and how the clique has changed.
Yes.
And I was really sort of intrigued with Sabrina.
Yeah.
Because Sabrina, man, she couldn't let anything go.
Yeah.
She
was kind of the control freak.
She's definitely the control freak. And
every friend group has one.
but she doesn't want, she's the one that strikes me as doesn't want anybody to change.
Yeah.
Ever. And, and then there's Cleo, who's like, we've all changed. We're all moving on.
And I thought it was really extremely, and spoiler alert, but when I found out that she had kind of orchestrated everything and knew that they had broken up and wanted them to be forced to spend the weekend together and wanted him to kind of force them back together.
Yeah.
I understand why she was angry. Why Harriet would be angry.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was really heavy-handed.
That was very heavy-handed.
I wouldn't want someone meddling in my. I mean, it's not like they're in college anymore dating. I mean, this is like a marriage.
But that's what she was trying. Really that's meddling. What Sabrina was trying to make it. Be. I felt kind of bad for her, but then at the same time, that would have driven me crazy if somebody had an itinerary and the blowhorn or the bullhorn and.
The foghorn.
The foghorn, yeah.
I did like that when there was the shower scene and he's like, they're going to blow that horn.
Yeah.
We got to get out of here.
A couple of minutes before the horn blows. And was it me or did they drink a lot?
They did. I did notice that.
They did.
Yeah. I guess it was part of their nostalgia, college friends.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I've never been a, I have college friends, but there wasn't a group of us that big.
Yeah.
That we would go and spend a week and drink like that. But
I mean, a few spring breaks come to mind, but it's been
there was some spring breaks, but it was more like a night, instead of every night. But that's just, I mean, it's fine that they did, but I was like, man, they're all drunk again.
I was having vacation envy as I was reading, though. Because, I mean, how amazing to have this house on the coast to get to go back to again and again and rent free. And rent free. The red the red convertible comes and picks you up at the airport.
Right,
and,
yeah.
I mean, it
just help yourself to all that wine down there. It's totally like nobody keeps tabs of all that expensive wine. It just blows my mind. But here's another question I have for you. What did you think about Harriet's decision to give up her medical career? Yeah. I mean, she was a resident when she. So I guess her medical practice.
I had mixed feelings about that because I understand why that was part of the story resolution, but at the same time, I felt like it was a little bit overdone. Like after all that work, years and years of school and years of residency, it felt like she would have landed on something a little bit somewhat related. I mean, not making pottery. I mean, I felt like she maybe would have, done something else. I mean, I don't know, but I guess the whole point of the theme was giving people permission to be happy and permission to find happiness where it was natural for them instead of everybody else's expectations. Because that was one of her struggles throughout the book was her parents' expectations.
Her parents' expectations, but even her parents, I mean, they were like made to be cold.
Yes.
But I mean, I've known lots of parents like that who are, so dead set on getting their kids into a good career so they'll have a good life. And so I didn't like, and then even in the end, it says that her dad came around and started,
he came around to the pottery.
Yeah. But I don't know. I just wondered about how, if it hadn't been for Wynn, how would she have gone into medicine? Would she have stayed there? Would she have liked it? She really didn't like that residency, but it seems like a long way to go.
Yeah.
To reach that point. But
to me, it felt like there was something between being a brain surgeon and teaching pottery, where she would have naturally more realistically landed. I mean, but
yeah,
it's just fiction.
Yeah.
So it's okay.
And I'm glad she's doing pottery. I mean, I think that's a really good compliment to Wynn's furniture
But
making.
I was glad that they ended up in Montana, because actually I think that was kind of their personal happy place, in that, that's where Wynn's family was, and that's where he felt like the most himself, and she felt like she was kind of almost like an adopted member of their family. I mean, she felt so much warmth towards his parents and his family that she never had in her own life.
That's right. They
felt
took
like
her in
a really
like that.
natural part of the resolution.
Yeah, I thought so too. So
I was glad
everybody,
end up in Montana.
They both got what they needed from that.
Again, more spoilers, but
it was. I really like that too.
Yeah.
There was something I was going to say, and I can't remember what it was about her decision to give up the medical practice. I don't remember.
What did you guys think of the ending? Well, we all knew it was going to be happily ever after, but what were your thoughts? Anyone? You liked it? Yeah.
I feel like you knew that it was going to happen because someone had to give.
Yeah.
So it was like inevitable that one of them
was going to go. Yes. His ultimate business was not ever going to translate to California, and
no.
So yeah.
I would like to see that table, that $18,000 table that he made. I'd like to see that. But he sounded like he was an artisan, so I thought that it feels like they both got like more than just each other. They got, he's really family oriented and she really wanted to belong like that.
I really liked him.
I did too.
I read a few reviews where some of the people didn't like him, his character. They didn't warm up to him, but I liked him a lot. Yeah. I was like, this guy's a gem. What are you doing? Sit down and talk to him. But that was just me. I thought he was great.
I thought he was great too. And one thing I missed is that I wish there'd been maybe a little epilogue so we'd know what about like Cleo and Kemi and Parth and Sabrina. And the baby. Yeah. That would have been really good.
That would have been good.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you had to say what your happy place is.
My happy place?
Yeah.
It's probably the Texas coast. I spent a lot of summers going to the Texas coast, and so even after like I got married and we would take our kids, and so I have happy memories at the coast from all parts of my life, from when I was a kid, when I was falling in love, and then raising kids, like bringing my kids to play and make sandcastles and play on the beach. And so I think the Texas coast for me.
Like Galveston area?
Galveston, Padre. I mean, it just depends on which phase of my life. When I was a kid, it was Galveston because I grew up in Houston.
Yeah.
But then I would take my kids like to Port Aransas or Padre because that's just where we would take them. But just kind of that, the salt water and the sand castles and the shrimp for dinner, and I mean, you can just smell the air.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's one of the reasons I set books there. I've set quite a few of my books on the coast because it's so, to me, the details are just so visceral. It's like you can just taste it and smell it without even having to be there. You feel it. So it's easy to write about for me.
Yeah.
What about you? What's your happy
Well,
place?
I've had a bunch of happy places through the years, but I'm going to have to say a bookstore with a bar and a bistro is definitely my happy place.
That's true.
Well, what else do you want to say about the book, The Happy Place?
I liked it. For me, it did. One of the reasons I love to read fiction is I just love to be carried away to a new place and just forget about daily life and feel big emotions.
Yeah.
And I think she's really good at that.
Yeah.
You just feel big emotions when you're reading her books.
Yeah.
Because she has a lot of detail, and you feel the joy, and then you feel the angst, and I think she's great at describing that.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think so too.
For me, it was a big thumbs up. But what did you think?
I mean, I really enjoyed it. She reminds me a lot of, or Kathleen Center reminds me a lot of her. I mean, they both have that kind of similar aesthetic in their book and the banter. So if you guys haven't read Kathleen Center, I'd recommend The Bodyguard. That came out last summer, but I haven't
read that before.
It's really good.
Yeah,
it's really good. But they're very similar.
Yeah.
And so But I love just a happy escape that is going to end well, and it's not like
Yeah.
really dark and depressing, like another book I read recently. And, I'd much rather read something like this that's, I just really liked it a lot. There's a reason she's doing as well as she is.
Yeah.
What are you reading right now?
Right. The book in my bag, I always have a book in my bag.
Yes.
We were talking about this over pancakes. The book in my bag right now is this one, Daisy Jones and the Six. And I read another one by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I liked it. And so I decided to pick this one up. And then I heard that it was being made into a series, which I haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
So please don't spoil, no spoilers yet. I haven't finished it, but I'm about a third of the way in. And I'm liking it. Right now it's all sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And I'm waiting for it to get a little bit more past that. Like, I want to hear more about the relationships, because they're setting, I can feel like they're setting the stage for that.
Yeah.
But we're not there yet. So right now it's like the crazy rock and roll party scene.
Yeah.
Which is fun to read about, but I'm kind of waiting to see what happens with the relationships. So,
well, I just started
read
a
this
new
one?
book. I have. I read it when it came out. Yeah, I really liked it. So that's why I'm not saying
have
anything.
You seen the series?
I haven't seen the series.
Okay.
I think I watched like the first episode, and you know how it is when you've read a book and then you watch the first episode and you're like, I've already seen this, or already know.
Yeah.
And I just went on, so I didn't see it.
Okay.
But I've heard that the series is really good.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things about this book, so this book is about a rock band and the relationships in the rock band and everything, and so they make a lot of references to the songwriting, and I'm really dying to see the series just so that I can hear the music, because it's such a key part of the story is the songwriting and the lyrics and the voices, and I just want to kind of see them perform, because you kind of want to see that for yourself.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, the cooking shows where you get to hear all about how great the food tastes, but you're just sitting there staring at it, but you don't get to eat it. So it's kind of like I want to watch the series.
I like the British baking show. Yes. They make those cakes. Oh my God, I want that cake.
So what's in your bag?
So, which I got here at Larkin Iona Iverson's Rules for Commuting.
Okay.
She wrote The Authenticity Project.
Is this fiction or nonfiction?
It's fiction.
Okay.
And it's about some people on a train. Some guy almost dies one morning, but it's their stories. And she reminds me a lot of Frederick Bachman. She has the same kind of voice and sensibility. And he's the one that wrote, A Man Called Ove and Beartown. But it's really good. I mean, the characterization in these books is just wonderful.
Where's the setting?
It's in England.
Okay. Oh, you said they were on a train, so I'm wondering if it was in Europe. Okay.
Yeah, in London. It's just, her characterization is so good, and it's envy inducing, actually. So
that's always a good sign.
And look, I have this. My friend went to the coronation and she brought me back a coronation bookmark.
That's awesome.
Terry.
Is that from Terry?
Yeah.
We have a friend who is just all things British royals.
Yes.
Yes.
So
wonderful.
Well, what do you guys want to talk about? You want to talk about the book, Happy Place? Do you have any questions about it, or any remarks you want to make? Or do you want to just ask questions?
I did notice that it was very friend heavy, this book.
Yes.
It was like, instead of being focusing on the relationship, it focused a whole lot on the
friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was just something I noticed.
She said in an interview that that was a part of the challenge of writing this book, is she was trying to broaden her cast. And so this was her first real attempt to create a bigger cast and really go deeper with those characters. They weren't just like a side character, but really kind of get to know them better. And so, and that can be hard to do, kind of an ensemble cast where you really get into the lives of the extra people, not extra, but the surrounding characters.
Did she say why she wanted a broader cast?
I don't know. I don't remember her saying specifically why, but just that was part of the challenge of this story was to try and go deeper with the more people, but that also kind of made it harder to write. So
I would think so. That's a lot to, you have to keep track of, and kind of, they've got to have some kind of character arc.
Yes.
All those people.
Yes.
So I had an editor a long time ago. I'll tell you who it is later, because you probably heard of her, but who told me, like it's one cocktail party or something, never ever have more than 4 characters. More than 4 characters, nobody can keep up with.
Oh my gosh, I'd blow that away on chapter 2.
Yeah, yeah. Well, main characters, I guess.
No, I know, but I mean, Yeah.
I know, but those things
See,
stick
but
with me.
you have to have more when you're writing suspense because you have to have all these red herrings.
Right. You have
If
to
you
have
don't
red
have other
herrings.
suspects, it's
Yeah,
boring. You have to have all these like shady people that might be the killer.
And then I had another editor tell me that if you are an author, you can never move. And I was like, why? And she said, because you don't have time. So, and I thought,
What
so
do you
I
mean
can
never move.
Well, you remember when I lived in Austin and I moved out to Round
can't.
Rock?
I thought you meant move publishers.
No, move like physically move my house. You can't
Because
do
you
that.
just have too many books.
I
or what?
had deadlines, and so you just can never move. That's what she
Okay.
told me. You would know who that editor is
Yes.
too. But
Yes.
you probably know right now. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's true.
But I mean, as a challenge, I mean, that's a lot of characters to keep up with, and it would. I don't know if I'd want to do that.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Well, it's hard when you write a lot of characters into the story. It's tricky if you're writing a series and you try to make some of the supporting characters into a main character in a feature book.
Yeah.
That can get tough because oftentimes a supporting character has a lot of idiosyncrasies that make them interesting. And you bring them into the story to provide a contrast with your main character or to be a sounding board, the best friend or the brother or whatever it is. And that works great as a secondary character, but sometimes you've written yourself into a corner with their character traits and then you try and go write an entire book about them. And it's a little bit hard because they can be real obnoxious and they're hard to like. And now you have to kind of tone it down a little bit to make them likable enough to carry a full story and to keep the reader's attention. So,
well, I've done like families, like especially in historical romance, but the extra characters come on like maybe a couple of times through the book, and they're at a tea party or something like that. So you know who they are and you know how they're related, but you don't know much about them because I just don't have
that's
time.
That's also purposeful. Like if you over describe them in book one, you have to stick with that. And maybe you don't want them to have blue eyes and all this backstory that you have to then weave into your new story. So sometimes it's better to be a little bit vague.
Be a little bit vague and just enough to whet the interest.
Yes, you can have more freedom when you're writing this, book 3 in the series or something. But any other comments about Happy Place? What are you guys reading lately? Any new? Anything? What is that?
Oh, yay!
Which series is that one?
It's the Royal Mesh series. It just came out. Yeah, there's one more in that series, but yeah, Oh.
I've read the first one.
Yeah. Oh.
You mentioned having characters in your books that you might want to like a spin-off book about. Do you know that going into your original story, or it's kind of something you discover along the way of writing?
Well, I don't know how it's happened with you, but most of my books are a part of a series, and so I kind of set it up where the secondary characters can kind of step forward and be a primary character. But I've had a few series earlier in my career before I kind of thought ahead, was planning ahead better. Like for example, one of my first series is called the Glass Sisters series. Well, I only made 2 sisters, which was a bad idea. In retrospect, I wish I had made more sisters than that because. So then I realized if you have a family series like the Glass Sisters, then you're limited by how many people are in the family, and you're kind of stuck with what you start with, unless you want to start adding the cousins or whatever. So I found that it's a little bit easier to center a series on, say, a place, for example. So a series that I'm writing right now is most of the books are set in the same area. It's called the Texas Murder Files, and it's the same setting. So it opens you up to more possibilities for your characters.
Yeah.
So in answer to your question, you don't always plan it ahead, but you can plan ways to give yourself flexibility so that you can have people to choose from. But if you name the series after the family, you kind of
That's what I
don't recommend it.
I mean, I've done both where I've planned it and then like one character just kind of comes alive. And after the first book comes out, people start asking you about somebody.
Yeah. You'll get, you messages like, what about so-and-so, so-and-so.
And so, you'll develop it.
And then if you put them with a surprising matchup, then you get hate mail.
Yeah, it's got to be.
They're like, what? they were meant to be. You know, you've been hinting for 4 books that they were to be.
But I did a Scottish series with a family, and the problem I ran into was that the first book was about the parents, and then we got so far down the road that in the, you know, the 18th century they would have been dead. So I mean, I had to, like, you know, they weren't going to live to 100. So I finally just had to end that series because of that, you know,
because of the high mortality rate.
Right. You can never kill off a couple, you know, you can't do it. So yeah, that kind of, and I didn't think about that either.
Well, I've thought about that as we've been watching the Bridgerton series. I don't know. I know you've been watching it because we've talked about this over pancakes.
Yes.
You know, Lady Bridgerton, you know, she's getting up there. She's got a lot of
I
kids.
know she's got.
She's kind of defying the odds in many ways.
Yes, she is.
But, you know.
Yeah.
You guys watch Bridgerton? Yeah.
I have not seen Queen Charlotte though.
I started it. I started.
Is it good? Okay.
That would be the one instance where isn't there a book? Did she write a book?
I think they just did. Yeah.
Okay. Because I read all the Bridgerton books before I started watching the series, and then I started Queen Charlotte without having read the book. I thought I saw somewhere that she'd done a book, but I haven't read it. So this will be the flip. Usually I try to read the thing first before I watch
think
it.
Shonda Rhimes and Julia wrote that.
Collaborated on it. Yeah.
Wrote that book together. So
yeah, something to watch.
Yeah. Julia Quinn and I started about the same time. If you've been in the store, you've heard me say this a million times. There were 2 Julias. One went on to fame and fortune. One did not. So.
Oh gosh. Yeah. But not just the Bridgerton series. She's got several really, really amazing series.
Yeah,
I mean,
she does.
I kind of binged all her books during the pandemic. I was on a historical romance kick. I
remember.
I mean, what else did we do during the pandemic but read and read?
I read a lot. But you know, some people said they couldn't read during the pandemic. They were too, like, their brains were too divided. And I thought, man, I read so much. I had to escape.
To me, that was my escape.
Yeah.
I couldn't watch news. It was like everything was so depressing.
Yeah.
It was like read. You know?
Yeah, that's what I did.
And, you know, so that's what you know.
Yeah. So I think this is Emily's 3rd or 4th book, right? But between the 2 of you, I think we have over 100 books that you've written.
Wow.
When you add Julia and Laura together, you get over 100 books. So,
I bet we have.
Yeah, I bet you're right.
So this is a question I'm sure you get a lot, but how do you keep finding new ideas or new ways to tell not the same story, but the same genre of story, which they do follow beats, you know, and you have to have the happily ever after, you have to have your things.
You have to have your tropes, you know. Romance readers really like the tropes. I don't know. How do you do it?
Well, I write suspense. So a lot of my story ideas, and I got my start as a newspaper reporter. So I read a lot of news, and for me, I'm always fascinated by the forensic side of things. And so a lot of my ideas for the mystery element of the story come from just reading true crime, reading about, you know, investigations that are happening. I mean, anything from, you know, the Golden State Killer in California that was apprehended based on the DNA evidence, you know, and all that genetic genealogy that police are using now, and then the Idaho murders that just happened over the holidays. I mean, just stuff like when a news story like that comes up, I'm like glued to it, and I'm so interested to see like what new investigative techniques, what forensic techniques are they using that I haven't heard of before, and so that sometimes those will spark plot ideas, but that doesn't, you know, necessarily spark the characters, but sometimes the plot.
I generally start with a character. I get an idea of a character, and I start thinking about what could happen to that character, or what makes him different from all the other, like, heroes, for example, that I've ever written. And, you know, especially like, not so much in contemporary romance, but historical romance, there's only so many ways you can go, just because, well, they're all dukes, you know. So I try to think of, like, you know, I've given them physical maladies and just things like that. I don't know. And then once I have a firm idea of a character, the story usually comes from there. but it takes a while. It takes a lot of
Yeah.
dog walking for me to, kind of get to that point with a character. Anybody else?
Some tropes that you're both tired of.
Tired of. Oh,
That's a good one. Good question.
I said that I was binge reading a lot of historical during the pandemic.
Yeah.
I got really tired of the whole marriage of convenience one.
Mm.
I think I just read a few too many.
Yeah. Secret Babies.
Oh, and that Secret Baby. I'm okay with the Secret Babies in historical, but in modern,
Yeah,
I do modern day Secret Baby stories, and this just put me off because it's like
there's just something really
somebody
wrong
has
about that.
paternal rights
Yeah,
there. I mean,
yeah, exactly. I don't like Secret Babies.
they're kind of off-putting when you bring them into the present day.
Yeah. It's funny. I don't like reading about fake dating so much, but I like watching it in a movie. I don't know why that is, but I've probably read too many fake dating ones. What about you? Are there any tropes you're tired of?
In historical romance, I dislike the house party.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. I like that from a suspense perspective too, because all the suspects are on the island together, or in the castle or whatever it is. I just read Lucy Foley. What was this? She's done several where it's like that, the guest list, and they're all there for a wedding, and the setting is all creepy. If you like suspense, you should try her. But the setting is all creepy, and it's windy and stormy, and there's a murder, and all the guests are there at the wedding, and somebody obviously on the island did it because there's no access to the island. So your suspects are all there. It's kind of like an Agatha Christie, but
yeah.
And then she did another one that I read recently, The Hunting Party, and it's a similar kind of setup where they're all there for a reunion.
Yeah.
And it was similar to this in one way. It was a group of friends coming together for a reunion, and they were college friends, and they've kind of outgrown those relationships.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, and people are having affairs with each other, and so it's got a lot of intrigue, but it's definitely a lot darker than Happy Place. No pink cover for this. It's more like gray, but it was good.
Yeah.
If you like dark,
Maybe we know that our next book club is a thriller.
We're gonna read a thriller next.
Yeah.
So
we're not gonna tell you which one yet, but we're definitely doing a thriller.
Yeah.
So because we love those.
Yeah. We're gonna have to go from Barbie pink to something a little bit more
something
dark. We're gonna have to
Storm gray.
Yeah. Yes. Any other questions?
Really? So what is everybody reading? That's one thing I always want to know, what everybody's reading.
I just finished today. It was M.L. Rios. We were villains.
Oh.
If you like Shakespeare, it's all about a dramatic arts school and history.
Is it present day, past?
It's like a little bit of both. So they were in college in like the late 90s.
Okay.
But one of them ends up in prison for 10 years because of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a drama college that they're all like, so there's lots of Shakespearean quotes and things in the story and all that kind of intrigue and people having affairs with each other and whatnot. So it was really quite interesting.
That sounds like a good recommendation.
Who was the author?
I think M.L. Rios. I think maybe it was. I know it was just two initials.
Okay.
Sounds very good.
M.L. Rio.
Yeah. M.L. Rio. Okay.
If we were villains.
If we were villains.
I'm embarrassed to admit that I've never actually read Pride and Prejudice.
Oh.
I am in the middle of Pride and Prejudice right now.
Oh, wonderful.
I envy you that you're reading it for the first time. That's so awesome.
Oh, okay.
That's wonderful.
Do you know my agent? She reads Pride and Prejudice once a year.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Yeah, she does. And she's been doing that for 20 years. And she should be able to quote it by now.
That's great.
Do you like it? Is it?
At first I was like, I'm not used to the language, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's so old. It took me a little bit to get used to that, but now I think I'm kind of getting sucked in a little bit. So.
Yeah.
I'm actually reading the Jane Austen Society, which is really about people who love Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah.
This kind of goes along with that. I finished reading Emma of 83rd Street.
Oh.
The modern retelling of Emma.
Oh,
is
is
it
it good?
set in America?
It's out of New York.
Okay.
Who's the author of that?
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
It's pretty new out.
Yeah.
But I thought it was
Okay.
I love when they do a modern retelling.
Yeah, me
of
too.
this. I
Me
mean,
too.
that can be so much fun.
Yeah. Especially when you're-
Question.
Yeah.
You had mentioned your agent. I'm kind of curious. How do you find an agent? Like, what is your what do you do?
Well, at first I have to say that we both found agents back in the Stone Age. So I don't know how you do it now. I mean, I really don't. But at the time, I went to Barnes and Noble and got a book on how to get an agent, and they had lists of all the agents that took first-time authors. And
Mhm. I think one of the best. If are you an aspiring writer, or do you write? Or yes.
Mhm.
Well, if you decide you're wanting to get an agent, you might start by following some on social media, because a lot of them will just put out writing tips or tips about how to query, or sometimes they'll just announce what they're looking for. Like, hey, does anyone know of a great, if you have a great manuscript of the whatever, something set in the Scottish Highlands, or send it my way. Like, sometimes they'll just announce what they're looking for. And so it can help you just get a feel for what people are reading. And agents have their favorites.
Yeah.
They not only do they have certain genres that they like to represent, and most agents will tell you they'll represent a lot of variety, because everybody
Yeah.
likes to be a generalist, but in reality they have certain things that they really like and they go back to again and again. And even editors are like that too. Like, my first editor, she was an equestrian, and she loves horses. And if I had known that, I mean, if I have a friend who's writing a book and has any horses in it, send it her way. She will love to read it. I mean, so there's these little preferences that people have that you could kind of glean from following them on social media. I mean, if this woman loves to ride horses, and I mean, just things like that, you get to know a little bit of something personal that might give you a little bit of a leg up and get your manuscript a look.
there's I just thought, I listened to this podcast a lot, and it's called "The Shit No One Tells You About Writing," and it's that's the name of the podcast. But it's two agents, and I think she's a writing coach. But every week they each look at queries that came in and talk about what was good about them and what needed to be strengthened. And then they'll read like the first chapter and talk about the strength of the writing. But they give great advice. That's why I'm listening to it all the time, because they give a lot of really good advice about writing and how to query and what might turn an agent off and what an agent might really like. But that's the name of the podcast.
Who are the agents?
One is Carly Waters, and I can't remember. And you said social media, and she's really big on social media. She posts a lot of the stuff that they do.
Yeah.
But
and just following agencies. If you don't know specific agents personally, if you find an agency that has a lot of clients, follow the agency. And what you'll see is that agencies will often repost tidbits from their agents. And so if you don't know who their agents are, or you don't know how to get a hold of them, their social media handle, if you just follow their agency, they'll eventually kind of surface. So, and you can and another tip on that along those lines is a lot of authors, and I'm sure Emily Henry did this, I mean, because she writes long acknowledgments, a lot of authors will acknowledge their agent in their acknowledgments page. So if you love an author and you feel like you're writing something that's a little bit similar, or you're trying to kind of have a similar tone or a similar genre, find out who their agent is. Just look in the acknowledgments and see. And that might be a person to query, because that they represent that kind of a book. So
yeah, that's a good idea. And agents are very active on social media. They also do on Twitter. They'll do these different, they call them pitmat, or they're different names. I can't remember what they all are, but you can pitch in a tweet, and if an agent likes your tweet, that's permission to send them the query. So if you have a book idea, you pitch it in 140 characters or less, or 240 characters, and agents go through and look at it, and they like it, and if they like it, send them a query, the full thing. So I guess that's how you do it now.
I have another question about kind of the author-to-author situation. You had the note from Emily about she was so grateful that you read her book.
Yeah.
where have y'all had that the other way around, where you had an author that you really admired read your book and you got positive feedback? Can you point out any examples of that that were really meaningful?
Yeah, I had Debbie Maycomer.
Oh, yeah.
At one time, she walked up to me and said, "I love your books." And I just about melted all over the place.
Nice.
I know,
She's
I know.
wonderful. Yeah.
She's wonderful. And I'm sure she said it to every young author
didn't.
there, but I
No,
mean,
she
but
didn't.
she knew who I was, and that was, but Debbie
That's
Maycomer is
wonderful.
one.
Yeah.
Susan Mallory has been very supportive through the years. You know, she like just, you know, magnifies me on social media.
Mm-hmm.
So
Jane Ann Krentz is very generous too.
Yeah.
She's a lovely person, and she takes time out of her busy writing schedule, and she does interviews with debut authors all the time, and veteran authors. But she really makes an effort towards people that are just starting out, and tries to amplify their platform, you know, and you know, retweet their social media or repost things that they post. And for me, when Karen Robards read one of my suspense novels, I was just over the moon, because I had been reading, you know, her for a long time, and I mean, I couldn't believe it. I was just, and I was trying to tell my husband, like, see this picture on the back of this book? You know, he's like, yeah, you're always reading a book with that. I'm like, yes, she's reading my book. He's like, it's exciting, but it is also kind of terrifying, because you're like, oh, what if
they don't like it? Yeah. Well, you would never know.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah. I mean, if they didn't like it, they would probably just decline to make a comment.
Yeah.
But
that's how you know.
Yeah.
Too busy. We're too busy to give you.
So you mentioned that Emily and Catherine Center, they both have that sparkling dialogue. I agree with you. Are there things that in writing that come easily to each of you in like dialogue or setting or whatever, and what comes not so easily in the writing process?
I love writing dialogue, and I think part of that is left over from my days as a newspaper reporter, because whenever I would interview anyone, I was always thinking of what are the quotes? Everything this person's telling me, there's got to be some really good gems in there that I'm going to lift out of the conversation and really focus on as an example of what they're saying. And so I think about dialogue a lot, and to me, I like to write it. The thing I hate writing is clothes. And so it's like, you know, I'll get into a whole scene, and you know, my editor will write in the margin, what are they wearing? I'm like, I don't know. Jeans. I mean, who cares? You know, because for me, like, I don't really care. But, you know, and a lot of romance authors are, you know, especially if you write historical, it's really an important part of setting the scene.
Yeah.
But
I love that part.
when I'm writing about cops and investigators, I'm like, you know, he's wearing jeans again. I mean, I don't care.
Yeah. The same pair of jeans he's had on through the whole book. Yeah.
I always wonder if the character looks like, they don't always say that. You know, they don't always say like the hair color or height, or just basics.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have heard authors before say they don't like to describe characters to let the reader imagine it, but I think a little guidance, you know, especially if their physical shape has something to do with the story.
And I think that's important in romance, because you have to know why is there a flare of attraction, and it doesn't all have to be physical. I mean, I love it when he's so attracted to the way she laughs, or the way you know, something that it's not necessarily it might be something that indicates something about her personality. I like that, because it makes me think that he's not shallow,
right?
Which he probably is, but
and he's really paying attention.
Yeah, he's paying attention. Exactly, they're paying attention. That's what you like to see.
I think one of the things I cannot do is what Laura does, and that's write the suspense. I did try to do that a couple of times, and I had, like, early on, somebody's assistant was murdered, and then it was like, well, now what? That was a big mistake. So yeah. So yeah, so that kind of
begins.
Yeah.
That's like scene one.
So I think my strength is more towards characterization and characters, but big house parties. You know? Yes.
Based on your strength and your challenge writing like that, do you think you'd ever team up?
That'd be fun. We'd have to be something contemporary though. You write contemporary and historical.
Yeah.
I've never written historical ever. I don't know.
Well, that's okay. But you know, historical is like the 60s and 70s now.
I
know. I don't know.
The
Well, I
thing
mean,
about historicals is that, again, it goes back to the newspaper thing. I have a thing about accuracy. Like I have to be accurate. Like I look up highways and what goes where and try to make it accurate because, you know, it's real life. You know, it's supposed to feel like real life.
you try to make
But
it accurate, but then you have
how do you
this
do that for
entire
historical?
town down there on the
Yeah.
on the coast that does not exist.
It has to be kind of like, it has to feel accurate.
Okay. It has to feel accurate.
So-
Okay. It has to feel accurate. That's helpful.
Yeah. But you guys do so much research into the clothing and the vocabulary they use and the conveniences that existed or didn't
Yeah.
exist. That,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, in answer to your question, we don't know. Maybe someday
We could do time travel.
we could do time travel. Yeah.
Yes. Sensible time travel.
Anybody else?
Let's get
freedom did you have at the beginning write your story versus what the editor wanted to see?
Say a lot.
yeah.
I mean, generally they take a manuscript and they try to develop it along the lines that you were thinking.
Mhm.
You know, they've never. Now I have another crazy editor story. You can guess which one
Yeah,
it is.
I know.
She knows.
The words crazy editor. I
Yeah.
know exactly what you're
It was a long time ago, but it was a historical,
doing.
and she was very late on getting edits back to me. And it was like the week before Christmas, and she sent it back, and she said, "I really think this book could do with an orphan." And I said,
What?
"What? Yeah." Excuse me. She
Drop
said,
an orphan into
I
your
really
story."
think they need an orphan. And you know, it was Book of Scandal. If anybody wants to know, there's an orphan in there because it was right before Christmas, and I didn't know what to do, so
Oh my
I
gosh.
stuck an orphan
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah.
But think about that. My God. I think probably looking back that she thought it would help soften the main characters, or I don't know, but that's not the way she presented it.
This book needs an orphan.
Yeah, we need an orphan. I really think you need an orphan in there. But most of the time, it's a great collaboration, or at least it is for me. I mean, you know, I present a manuscript, and they're like, "This is great. This is where you could strengthen it. And what if you did this?" And
And some people are more tactful than others.
yes, the good editors are way more tactful.
And it's, I mean, if you start with a message of like, oh, here's some things I liked about it, and then you get into the things that need to be strengthened,
Yeah,
that's a lot more tactful than just like, he's being such a douche. You
Yeah,
know, and written in the
yeah,
margin, they're like,
yeah.
okay, I get the message, you know. Had
yeah,
a few of those.
yeah.
It's like the red pen spilled all over everything. Of course, now they're not doing pens. It's like in the margins, but you get these margin comments that are like this long, and it's like, oh no,
Yeah.
what happened here?
Yeah,
But-
I mean, we started when they would send the manuscript back and forth, the same manuscript. They would send it to you all marked up.
Yeah,
You would mark it up, send it back. Then they'd send it back again with the
copy editor.
the copy editor marks
Yeah.
on it. I mean, we've come a long way. We've come a very long way.
That was like an artifact of the process.
Yeah, and then they would send you
Yeah.
what did they call it? The remainder? No, they didn't call it the remainder. I don't remember what
I've
they
got the
called it.
artifacts of the process stacked as a tower in my office.
Yeah.
Because I just, you don't want to throw it away, but you don't
Know what to
at a
do with
certain
it. They would
point-
send it after the book was published,
Yeah,
and then you just.
Yeah.
I eventually threw them all away
Yeah.
because I was like,
They're just
stacked up in a corner. Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we do the?
The giveaway.
So
How
I
are-
was thinking you could pick a number if
Okay.
you didn't have another way you wanted to.
Between what and what?
1 and 16. Or
Okay.
let me go get the list.
Oh, she's
Okay.
she's got a cheat sheet you're all numbered in some way. Yeah. Do they go together, or is it two separate ones? Two separate giveaways?
Well, they could be two separate giveaways. One is a book plate that you can stick in the book, and one is the coffee mug.
Let's do them separately, then we'll have
All
two
right.
winners.
Better than
Yeah.
one winner, right?
Okay.
Yeah, see how we're all bored.
All right, we'll do the coffee mug first, and you pick. But
Okay.
you don't. Does she say? I don't know how to do it.
Pick
A number from-
between 1 and 16.
1 and
Actually,
16.
I don't know if they're all here, so you might have to back
I'll
up. Yeah.
adjust.
Okay, 9. And this is for the coffee mug.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh! Isn't that cute?
Lovely.
Hand it through.
That's a great mug.
All right, here's a book plate. So if you didn't read the book or get the book, you're going to have to get it now to stick the book plate in there. They're selling it at Larkin now. All right, so should
What
I?
number? Yeah.
Okay, 12.
Yay! Yay!
Who's? Oh, there's. Oh, I thought she was like, no. Steffi.
Okay, this was a lot of fun.
Was it
Thank you
good?
for coming.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you for
And
coming.
they brought you a drink, so there's that.
Yeah.
That's like the best.
So Laura and Julia want to do this about every 3 to 4 months.
Yeah.
So this is a special thing, and that's why we're keeping the audience small, because then you get to talk and enjoy instead of feel like you're in front of a crowd. So,
And if you have any suggestions for, we're going to read a thriller next time. We've narrowed down our list.
Yeah. We'll
But if
announce
you
it
have
this
any
summer.
suggestions, you can email one of us. Our addresses are on our website. So if you have an idea that you would love to, or a book you've heard wonderful things about that's kind of a thriller,
Yeah.
send it our way.
Or drop into our DMs.
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
I know.
So can we all thank them for their time?
Thank you.
Guys.
and as we said, we have their books, their newest books, and some of the ones from previous years, and just purchase it.
Oh. Hi, I'm Julia London. I am the New York Times bestselling author of historical and contemporary romance and women's fiction. And I'm here with Laura Griffin to talk about Emily Henry's Happy Place.
Hi, I'm Laura Griffin, and I'm the New York Times bestselling author of suspense romance and suspense fiction. And this is my most recent book. It's part of a series that I write. And we're here for our first podcast of our new book club.
We're calling it Open Book at Larkin. And we are talking about books that we love to read with people who like to read.
That's good.
That's perfect. That was really good.